It's prediction time as we roll toward the 2023 season. The week is finally here. We are kicking off who will be the division winners, Super Bowl champions, rookies of the year in 2023. Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. By the way, hit us on those Twitter handles at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL, or drop a comment on YouTube if you want to get involved in our weekly mailbag shows, which will be happening on Wednesdays now. We were doing them Thursdays in the offseason, but we got Thursday Night Football happening, and we got to do some previews for the week on our Thursday episode. So we're bumping that up to Hump Day Wednesday for those questions. So get those in early if you'd like to. Obviously, you want to be subscribed up to everywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Appreciate all the everydayers out there. And now it is time to put our I don't know, our little future goggles on. Like, we're trying to look into the future here and predict what's going to happen into the 2023 season, Matt. And if we work our way up to the Super Bowl champion, that means we have to start with the division winners and the playoff teams in 2023. So let's start there and work our way westward from the East in the AFC. Who you got, Matt, in the AFC East?
Going with the Bills. I just think that they are still right in the thick of this thing, that the end of their season, a lot of it outside their control, couldn't have gone any worse. I think Kincaid's a nice addition, even like Osiris Torrance. You know, a couple of these rookies I think can impact the offense. I've been kind of really warming up to James Cook, especially for fantasy, and think he could be a nice spark plug for this team. And Von Miller's going to come back at some point. So I like where the Bills are at, but it's a tough division.
We got the New York Jets, and I know there's a lot that could potentially go wrong there, but there's so much in place and so much ready to explode there. And then you add Aaron Rodgers, who just seems like everything's perfect, and just seeing a little bit of him in the preseason, how much control he has over that team. No team's going to improve more at the quarterback position than the Jets, and they're ready on defense. They're ready with playmakers on offense. I love it. Give me the Jets all day.
I mean, no matter what the supporting cast was, if you told me a team went from the 31st or 32nd quarterback production to even 5 through 10, that's a huge jump. I mean, no matter if it's the Cardinals roster or the Texans roster, let alone what they got and the defense they have.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. The East is going to be so much fun. And as we've mentioned, like, the 4 most difficult schedules in the NFL are all those AFC East teams.
Big time.
Yeah, there's going to be some big time battles and some matchups that decide that one. Let's go to the North, Matt. The division you are most in tune with, and the Steelers are a popular pick for a sleeper team right now. Can you pick them over the Bengals, the Ravens, or the Browns?
Not to win the division. I get the Bengals to win the division. I'm a little bit worried about them starting slow, but I think they can withstand the rigors of 17 games and deep on both sides of the ball. Not a lot of weaknesses. I assume Burrow will be back to being Burrow sooner than later. So I'm going to take the Bengals to win the division.
I have the Bengals as well. As long as there's nothing going on with Burrow and everything's pointing in the right direction to get him back, even if they start a little bit slow. I still like the Cincinnati Bengals there in the North, but that's going to be another tight division, another fun division. I think we're going to have a lot of wild card teams here from those two divisions so far. Maybe not a wild card from the South, though. Who do you like winning the AFC South, Matt?
I don't think there's any mystery to it. I mean, I think Jacksonville's offense, quarterback, head coach is so strong that even if they took 5 steps forward last year and take 1 back, I can't see Tennessee or the Colts or Texans competing with them.
Yep, Jacksonville Jaguars. We got the Bengals, both of us, and the Jaguars in the North and the South, respectively. How about that AFC West, Matt?
I'm going with the Chiefs. I know that's boring, but I'm going with the Chiefs. I mean, they dominate their division opponents. They're the Chiefs. I don't know what else there to say.
It's like if you're putting down money, if you are predicting, like you can get a little hot takey with it, but until it takes down the Chiefs are running stuff right now, and so prove us otherwise, right? In that division. So I'm gonna go Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have
okay. To. AFC wild cards. Is that our move?
Who are your 3 wild cards, man?
I put them in order of how I think they'll finish. I've got the Chargers as the first wild card. I got your Pittsburgh Steelers coming in at 2.
Ooh.
Got your Jets at 3.
Okay.
The thing about the Steelers versus Jets is, I'm not even saying the Steelers are a better team, but if you look at the schedules, it's night and day, especially when you start looking at things like conference tiebreakers. Like the Steelers play all the easy AFC teams. The Jets play all the hard teams. I mean, so I think that kind of stuff matters big when you're looking at wild card seedings.
Looking at the West, it's funny. Last year, I went back and I remembered how bad I was with 2 teams. I did pick the Chargers to once again be good but disappoint last year. But I thought the Russell Wilson. I thought they had more on defense that was I thought the Broncos were gonna be something last year, and I got burned on that one. So even with Sean Payton back in town, the Broncos are gonna stay arm's length for me. And you know what's funny, Matt? With our wild card and our division winners put together, we have the same 7 teams.
Really?
Bills. Yeah, I got the Bills, the Chargers, and the Steelers. And maybe it's talking to you too much, but and a lot of it
could be.
A lot of it is looking at that Steelers team for the Locked On 49ers, and I do like the direction that the Steelers are going. We'll see if they put it all together this year, but it's not like they were a bad team last year, but they have the vibes of a team that could take a big leap. Looking at that 2022 draft class and how many of them, I mean, all the way down to the 6th round, it was such a good class. And when that happens, usually good things happen in the near future for those teams.
It looks like they're stringing a couple good classes together, but I'm a little shocked that we both kept the Dolphins, Ravens, and Browns out of the postseason. But
it's just so much. There's just a confidence level with those teams. Like the Tua thing could be like, we could be sitting here in week 2 and the Dolphins just trying to figure out quarterback again.
Good.
You know what I mean? Like I think
the whole offense is fragile. They don't really have running backs. The O-line depth is questionable. Armstead's going to play 12 games. And I'm not predicting Waddle Hill will get hurt, but they don't have a third option either, let alone the Tua stuff. Like I just hate the fragility of the offense.
Right. Fragility is a great word for that. And it's been, my son's 5 years old. There's barely been a time in his life when not only the Browns, but Deshaun Watson's been good. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Wow.
Yeah. Watson. Let's see what that ends up looking like.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
And again,
Bills, Chargers, Steelers for me in the wild card. You got Chargers, Steelers, Jets, and we had the Bills, Jets swapped in the AFC East, and we agreed on the other division winners.
So I'm such a nerd. I mean, I'm already digging into Steelers Browns, which is the week 2 Monday nighter, because I turned in my stuff for the Niners. How about this? I mean, the Browns have gone 15 straight years with a negative point differential, going all the way back to 2008. That's the longest streak of its kind in NFL history. It's tied for worst. Like, come on, man.
And there's some of that with the Jets too.
Right.
But I'm believing in the Jets, and I got to see it with the Browns. That's where I'm at with those.
Absolutely.
Teams. But yeah, so you mentioned with the Browns and the Ravens again, like, let's see what the new offense looks like. Their defense might not be what it has been in past years. How are they up on defense? Yeah. Who's going to step up as a key pass rusher for them? So just again, fragility, a few more questions about how that's all going to come together. And they've got a number of players that are pass catchers in Baltimore, but who's going to step up and actually be that guy? And I still don't know. And you can kind of see it with the fantasy drafts as well. It's like, okay, well, roll the dice on one of those receivers and hope they come up huge for you, Baltimore Ravens.
And I could see, I could see them starting a little slow on offense.
Right. As they figure things out.
Yeah.
And super interesting team. And all those teams could do something. And there's always going to be a surprise team too. And who could that team be? The Titans. You can't ever count out the Titans. They're a well-coached team. As long as Tannehill's healthy, they've got a shot to be a team that surprises some folks as well. So
and we won't even bring up the Patriots, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, the Patriots are just doomed to be 500 until Bill retires now because there's too much. The offense should at least be a professional offense this year. So that's a professional offense and Bill Belichick coaching your defense. It's a pretty good combination. It's just too difficult in the division. Yeah. And that brings us next to the NFC. We'll predict our Super Bowl winners, MVP, offensive, defensive players of the year, and rookies of the year next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. That fantasy season is upon us, and there are tons of ways to get involved with fantasy football, including kickoff weekend, pick'em games. The season starts Thursday. No better way to get in on that action than Underdog Fantasy and their pick'em game. Just pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats. Then you can just do what you usually do, right? Spend kickoff weekend watching those football games. And you can win up to 20 times your money if you hit on those 5 for 5s on any single game. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money, and it's legal in over 30 states. And of course, it is a ton of fun. And when you sign up with promo code Locked On, not only will Underdog double your first deposit up to $100, but they also have Pick'em Special live now with their Pick'em lobby. And so Patrick Mahomes is their special this week. All he has to do is get 1 yard. I think you're pretty solid on getting one of your Pick'ems right with that one. If he gets over 1 yard, then that pick is correct to go with the rest of your Pick'ems. So remember, that's Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code Locked On. Use the link in the description or scan the QR code if you're watching us on YouTube. Okay, Matt, we are on to the NFC side of things. Which team do you like in the NFC East?
This is a little more hunch than fact, but I'm going Dallas. I just think the Eagles might suffer from coordinator changes. The spine of their defense is all new. Expectations are high. I have great respect for the Eagles, and we'll get to them at some point here, but I'm going to take Dallas to win the division.
Gosh dang it, man. I'm so mad. I picked the Cowboys too, and I thought for sure you were going to go Eagles on that one. I really like the Cowboys because of the more stable position that they're in. They got better, whereas the Eagles, you could see where they got worse. And the Eagles are still a really good football team. And they're going to be 2 of the best teams in the NFC this year. Just some Dak interception regression. Is he going to have 17 interceptions again, or is it going to drop down to 12, 10? What's that going to look like for him this year? Pollard, their running game without Zeke is going to be good or better than forcing carries to him. More playmakers on offense, more playmakers on defense. And I really like the Cowboys this year. And I still like the Eagles as well, but sure. Just maybe enough of a slow start. Coordinators on both sides of the ball, they lost some pieces. Like they didn't get better unless someone like Jalen Carter just comes in and is like, "Hey guys, guess what? You screwed up. Let me go to the Eagles." Right. Yeah, from day one, which is entirely possible as well.
It absolutely is. North, right?
Yep, NFC North.
I like the Packers. I think that's a minority pick there. I think most people would even have them third. I think Jordan Love's legit. I think that they're very young on both sides of the ball, but defense has to take a step forward. I'm not saying they're a powerhouse, but I don't have a lot of respect for the rest of the division.
I still think they have the best team top to bottom. They have so much youth, especially on offense around with those playmakers around Jordan Love too. So there might be more growing pains there with them, but this is a division that's up in the air. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
I just like the direction they're going. There's some holes there. Is the defense more like what we saw in the second half of the year than the first half of the year? A lot of young playmakers, but Jared Goff really came into his own, doesn't get a lot of credit for how good of a season he had. They're long-term team building. I've talked about the Lions not really loving off-ball linebacker and running back in the first round and some of those things, but those are the type of players that can come in and contribute immediately to your football team. So I do like just the completeness, veteran quarterback, Detroit Lions.
I get it, and they're basically the consensus, and I understand why. Again, there's a little bit of trust. Packers have won a lot more games lately than the Lions have won a lot more games lately. There's some of that sticking with me.
If 3 of the last 4 teams, Matt, in the tournament this year in the NFL are Jets, Browns, Lions, then we just got to shoot it down. I think it's like, okay,
right? Like what happened? It's the upside down.
All right, Packers, Lions in the north. What about the south?
I'm going with the Saints. Super easy schedule, but that's true for all their division mates. I do think Carr is a legitimate upgrade. I think their O-line is decent. You know, they got a wealth of backfield options. I think Olave is a star, even if Mike Thomas isn't a guy. I like their tight ends and Rashid Shaheed and some of these guys that don't get a lot of credit. I think it's a pretty solid team with a good physical defense too.
I can definitely see the Saints winning that, and I think it's smart money on the Saints for kind of a lot of reasons I talked about with the Lions, because there's so much unknown around the rest of the division there. I think Tampa's going to be. I think it's going to be just so close. Who's going to have that one big game? The ball's going to bounce their way. I'm going to. I was going to pick the Saints originally, but when I looked at this a little bit more, I'm going to buck the trend and go Atlanta Falcons here.
Oh, are you? Okay.
And Desmond Ridder being a good enough player, just because one of the things I've seen this offseason is how done Marcus Mariota was.
Right.
Maybe it is a big upgrade potentially from, just a young quarterback coming into his own year 2. A lot of playmakers for him on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to run the heck out of the ball, which they did last year, but they can be a lot more explosive as well, both running and throwing the football than they were last year. And do they have enough on defense in this division? I'm going to say yes, they do. Give me the Atlanta Falcons in the South.
Just a guy that can complete passes. I mean, Mariota couldn't complete passes last year.
It was bad. It was bad.
Really bad. Really bad.
The NFC West, man.
I'm going with the Niners. I mean, I have respect for Seattle. I don't have respect for the other 2 teams. I don't think their path is particularly difficult. I'm not going to say I'm going to predict that Darnold ends up at the starting spot, but I have some concerns there. I just am a little excited about Darnold. I'm not picking on you or anything. I don't know about the Bosa situation, but I bet he's in sooner than later. I think a lot of their questions get answered real quick in a positive way.
There's some weirdness with the 49ers right now coming into the year. No Bosa. And they've started slow the last 2 years, and they went to the NFC Championship game. So I don't think that's necessarily a death knell. And in this division, it's a 2-team race, and I like the Seahawks a lot, but I'm going to go 49ers. Just best roster in the NFL. Brock Purdy, some disrespect, Matt, from you there on Brock Purdy, but I get it if someone's from the outside looking in thinking Brock Purdy really, like, do we think that much of him? Was it a little bit of a mirage, small sample last year? We'll see it. And if Brock Purdy is the real deal, as Kyle Shanahan says, look out for the 49ers. And they can still win without a,
oh, they don't need Montana.
Domination quarterback anyway. So, give me the 49ers.
All right. 3 wild cards?
3 wild cards.
I got the Eagles as the number 1. I think the Eagles and Cowboys go down to the tiebreakers or last game of the season. They both win a lot of games, and the number 1 wild card seed is going to be a very strong contender. So that's the Eagles. I think Pete Carroll gets his team in at number 2. I think they're improving. I still have a little bit of Geno Smith doubts that, past week 12 last year, he was not the same, but Smith and Jigba, and there's a lot around them, and even like Charbonnet and those guys. So I think the offense will be quite good.
We mentioned it with the Steelers, Matt, when you start to stack a couple of really good draft classes together, and first rounders this year with Witherspoon and Jigba, with their probably the best. Those might have been the two best draft classes last year, the Steelers and the Seahawks. Looking back, so you start to see a lot of the fruits of that. Plus, you're a well coached football team, and
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's one of the biggest things we saw last year by the Seahawks and the Geno Smith stuff is like, don't doubt Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I guess this isn't super profound, but really good draft classes given to really good coaches ends up winning games.
Right, yeah.
There you go. I mean, all right. I got Atlanta as the 3rd wild card. I'm a believer. I don't know that I even believe in Ridder, but I do believe he's an upgrade. Their schedule is a cakewalk. I had a hard time leaving the Lions out, but I just think they could take a step backwards with expectations. And they might lose by a million on Thursday in Kansas City. And how do you handle that as an upstart team? I just think Atlanta's path isn't very difficult.
We nearly did the same thing we did in the AFC, Matt, but we do have one difference, and it's me going out on a limb here. I've got the Eagles and the Seahawks as well as the first two wild card teams. Okay. And I don't know what the schedule is like, but man, if it's Bears Packers in week 18, that could be a big one. And it's my brand. It's been my brand. I'm going Bears as my last. I was going to go Bears no matter what. It's the last wild card. So if I picked the Packers in the North, it was going to be the Lions that were out. I picked the Lions, so it's going to be the Packers that are the odd team out, and the Saints as well. So those are the two teams you have in the playoffs. I don't have in the playoffs here because I got to get my Bears in there, and that team could definitely crash and burn. There. But man, if Justin Fields is the dude, they're going to surprise some people, and they're going to be a difficult team to play against. And I think the NFC is going to be really fun after those, top 3 or so teams.
I 100% agree. I mean, if the Bears get in as a 7 seed, go to Dallas, Philly, San Fran, and get their doors blown off in week 1, that's a tremendous season for that team. I mean, they were the first pick of the draft a year ago.
If they're playing for a playoff spot in any point in the month of December, that's a tremendous year for the Bears.
Great way of saying it. Yeah, 100%. If they're relevant late, great.
And they might still be that year away from being
right. One more big offseason.
A year away. Maybe they're still that year away now.
But think about it, though. If they were relevant in December, let alone a playoff team, 2 first-round picks, bunch of cap space, already have your quarterback, I assume, okay, let's go.
Next, Matt, we've got to do MVPs of the league. We've got to pick our Super Bowl teams and Super Bowl
go ahead.
winners. And wait, did you have something else?
I was just saying I thought we were going to do Super Bowl winners. We'll do it next segment.
Yeah. We'll do Super Bowl winners next, and then we'll our individual awards as well coming up on our predictions episode for the 2023 season.
Stay in your lane, Williamson.
Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our friends at eBay Motors, they know a thing or two about the perfect fits, the guaranteed fits for your car. And it's the same for your fantasy rosters. Our buddy Vinny Iyer of Locked On Fantasy Football, bringing you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long, courtesy of eBay Motors. Every week, we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed fits, whether you're scouting the waiver wire or prepping for your last-minute drafts here. And I'm going to go to DJ Moore. I picked the Bears to win the final wild card spot and get into the playoffs. They're a team I've been bullish on, and there's good reasons. And DJ Moore is one of those biggest reasons. If you're looking for a player to take in fantasy football drafts who will spark his new team's offense and also help you speed to victory, then use a luxury pick on Bears wide receiver DJ Moore. It didn't take long for the former Panther to go from 0 to 60 after his big trade, cruising into the easy role of Justin Fields' new go-to guy. Moore was fine in Carolina, but he will perform better than ever while dominating targets from a young quarterback in Chicago. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. We're talking any part you need. Air filters, brakes, batteries, tail lights, alternators, shocks and struts. If you know what struts are, I don't know what struts are, but everyone always talks about the struts, and I'm sure I got them in my car, and they're important. What I did get from eBay Motors is a new fender flare for my vehicle. It popped off my car when I hit a traffic cone driving down the freeway, and that was super easy. And the green check was there, and it was the guaranteed fit, and it was the perfect fit for my vehicle. So for the right parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check, get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. Okay, so we've got the 7 playoff teams in the East, or in the NFC and the AFC, Matt. So who are your Super Bowl combatants, and who's your Super Bowl champion in 2023?
Bills over Eagles. I have no reason to pick against the Chiefs. I just don't want to, in a way. I just think the Bills are due. I think Allen can outduel Mahomes. He's one of the few that could happen. I think it's their turn. but that's not a very scientific answer.
I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers run ending just shy of getting to the Super Bowl in the AFC, Matt. But I do like what I'm seeing here from the Steelers, and it's going to be the New York Jets in the Super Bowl for me.
Wow.
And they are going to take on the team that should have drafted Aaron Rodgers all along, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. So the New York Jets over the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow. Okay. Bold. I like it, though. I like it. It's possible. Rodgers could be MVP, and I guess we'll get to that.
Well, that's it. I've got Rodgers MVP.
Okay. I got Allen. I mean, I got the Super Bowl winners. Right.
There you go. Allen and Rodgers are MVPs. It's going to be a quarterback. This is a quarterback award. That's why we're going to talk offensive player of the year and defensive player of the year to talk some non-quarterbacks here, baby. And but yeah, I'm all in on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets this year, as you can tell by my predictions.
Yeah.
And wow. Okay. So neither one of us with the Chiefs in or winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And part of it's just because it's redundant. I mean, they easily could.
Come on, that's boring.
Right. I mean, if gun to head, I might say, yeah, I'll take that Mahomes guy. But maybe this makes for a little bit better radio. I mean, I really don't have anything negative to say about the Chiefs. But Chris Jones thing, I think matters.
Yeah, it does matter. And potentially half a season of no Chris Jones. And, just that's my pause on the 49ers. A little cloudiness over the 49ers, just some weirdness. Great team. Chiefs, kind of the same thing. They should be fine. Both teams should be fine, but there is a little weirdness going into the year. I almost picked the Cowboys, and I do have a prediction of the Cowboys-Niners NFC Championship game, which is a game, all-timer. Maybe even get to see a little Trey Lance show up. What about that?
Oh, wow. All I could think of was like Aikman and Young and
Dion
and Haley and the guys that flip teams.
Well, it's funny. Steve Young, after the Trey Lance trade, he's like, I don't care if you're done with them or not. Never trade anybody to the Cowboys. I don't like it.
I just can't do it to them.
Steve Young, yeah.
That's funny. That still exists for those guys. That's cool. All right, I got out. Yeah. Offensive player of the year. I wrote down Tyreek, then I erased it. Then I put down McCaffrey, crossed it out. And then I'm just putting Justin Jefferson. Him and McCaffrey go to the top of fantasy drafts. Is that too easy? Maybe. I think Eckler could be in the mix. I mean, I picked the Chargers to go pretty far.
Yeah.
Jefferson just seems like a flawless player. I mean, every year he gets a little better, and he came into the league as a superstar.
Those Vikings are going to throw the heck out of the football.
Yeah, they are.
Defense is as bad as I think it is, and that's why I don't have them being a playoff team this year. And on the other side, I mean, you name some of the players I was considering there, like the Dolphins are going to be, if they're in it and they're a playoff team, there's going to be a lot of Tyreek, and he's got
2,000 yards, maybe. I mean,
right. Yeah. Just like a crazy amount of production there. But I'm going Christian McCaffrey, and you named him as well. And, the picture I painted with the 49ers winning the West, going to the Super Bowl. If McCaffrey, look, the big thing here, he played 20 games, I think, last year. And for running backs to do that back-to-back seasons and have the workload is tough, but, it's not all rushing workload for him. Can he stay healthy? He's going to be a focal part of that offense with Brock Purdy and the 49ers. So give me Christian McCaffrey there.
If we were putting chips down in terms of odds, like I want a bigger payoff, I might go for like a Pollard or a Chubb. I like those guys a lot in fantasy. Chubb could lead the league in rushing with like 1,900 yards.
I like the Chubb one. He's kind of been a guy that everyone's like, oh, he's a really good player, but nobody realizes how great he's the best running back in the league, probably.
Yes. I mean, he would be my bet to lead the league in rushing. So that should put you right in the conversation,
Absolutely. Yeah. Defensive player of the year, Matt.
Sorry, Steelers fans. I'm going with Myles Garrett. He's hated around here, but I think he is set up perfectly. I read a couple things just today. I said I started my dorky Browns stuff. He's never had a teammate reach double-digit sacks. He was the most double-teamed edge rusher in the league last year, and all that stuff's going to be much harder to pull off now.
That's a good one. It was a 2-horse race for me. Obviously, there's a lot of good players in the NFL that you can choose from here, but I was looking pass rusher as well, and I went to the NFC with Micah Parsons. Year 3, he's quote unquote focusing only on being an edge player. I don't know if that matters that much, but does it give him just a little bit more of an edge coming into the year? He's such a dynamic freak of nature coming off the edge and still an ascending player too. So, a little more nuance to his pass rush game, focusing a little bit more as an edge player. Give me Micah Parsons.
If you didn't mention him, I was going to, because he was my 1B. I mean, we both picked Dallas to win the division. If that's true, well, part 2 of that is probably real close to being true.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, Matt.
I went Bijan. I mean, staying healthy is obviously difficult. I think Young and Stroud are going to have a rough year. I think Richardson is possible just because he's going to be on SportsCenter a lot doing crazy stuff, but I think Bijan's that special.
It's just really gearing up for the quarterbacks to not have super successful years, which is going to hurt their cause. And Richardson was the one I was thinking about, where it's like, man, he might play a lot, but there's going to be so many mistakes as well. And he might be he might complete 52% of his passes. He might complete 48% of his passes. And I'm bullish on what he's going to be. But again, talking about clouds over the team, there's, his star running back. Like, that's one of the ways you protect your quarterback is the running game. He doesn't have a lot to throw to there. So I don't know how it can go that great for any of these young quarterbacks. And Bijan's dynamic, and a running back drafted in the top 10. It's like, man, he would have to be not really good to not win this award in a lot of ways.
And like Walker and Hall both had strong pushes, but then they got hurt. That's the thing that worries me is if he plays every game, I'm almost certain he'll be MVP or Rookie of the Year.
Do you think it will be all Bijan and a little bit of Algier at running back, or do you think there might be a little bit more of a split than some people are expecting, especially like when you think about a first-round fantasy draft pick in Bijan Robinson?
Well, I should mention this because I did my home league fantasy draft over the weekend at Deep Creek, Maryland, and I had the 5th pick and took Bijan. I know that's earlier than most people do, and I was very happy to do it. Chase was gone, Jefferson was gone, Eckler and McCaffrey were gone. I would have taken him 4th overall, not ahead of Chase, but not ahead of those other guys.
Wow.
So I'm in.
There you go.
But I would say that split's going to be more like a 2 for Bijan, 1 to Algier. But I think you'll also sprinkle in times when they're both on the field together and he's in the slot.
Yes, and so the reception production will make up for getting some touchdowns vultured potentially.
Perhaps, yeah.
Defensive Rookie of the Year, Matt. We'll finish it up here.
I think Carter jumps out. I'm sure you'll take Anderson. I've been rough on the Lions. I'm taking Jack Campbell. Some birdies have told me that this guy is the alpha of all alphas, and to me that means he will not bust. That position racks up numbers. He can become an instant leader. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, statistically, and who knows your name. So defenses, it's hard, if you're not an early pick, and there might be some star defenders that pop up from later rounds. But if you're predicting, I'm going to stay in the first round, and I'm going to stay with the first defensive player, the guy that they liked even more than taking any of the quarterbacks there. And from what little I saw of him in the preseason, love me some Will Anderson. So
I don't blame you.
And yeah.
I mean, he could be a double-digit sack guy, and he'll be right in the hunt. Yeah,
and it would be really huge for the Lions and their team building strategy going forward if they hit on a position that doesn't have a good track record with the first round draft pick in Campbell. And a lot of times those mistakes are made because you pick the athlete more than the football player, and he's got first round athleticism. But if he's a football player, then that's when they'll get that right.
That's why I'm pretty confident he's going to be good. I was a little critical of them taking that pick. That doesn't matter for this conversation. He's a Lion. I don't care if he's drafted in the 10th round.
Right?
It doesn't matter anymore.
Right? That you spend on it doesn't matter anymore. Now you're looking.
Doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, I think he's going to be really good right off the bat.
All right, there you go. Do you have any other predictions you want to throw out there before we go, Matt?
If the Packers win their division, LaFleur might be Coach of the Year.
Ooh, I like that one.
Just because he wins 13 games. It's all because Aaron Rodgers. I don't even know if he's a good coach or not. But if I'm right about them winning that division without Rodgers, that's going to be a strong case.
I like it. That's a really good one there. Who's going to have the first pick in the 2024 draft, Matt? Is it as easy as just saying Arizona Cardinals? Because that's what I got down in bold.
In bold. How about the Raiders for the 2nd overall pick, though? I think that's a little bit. Yeah.
What about the Rams, actually? Cooper Kupp's already coming into the year with a hamstring.
That's awful news, by the way.
Yeah. I keep telling my Locked On 49ers listeners, is like, well, hey, the good news is Caleb Williams is going to be in the NFC West. The bad news is he's not going to be with the 49ers.
Right. No, there's a good chance. I think both teams really want Caleb Williams.
We'll talk tons about the draft when it gets to January. Caleb Williams, look good in USC's debut. Those are our predictions. Let us know what we got right and what we got wrong. Get involved in our Wednesday mailbag episode at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL on Twitter, or drop a question or a comment on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, hit the notification so you know when a new show is up. And of course, you can find us everywhere you find your podcast. Matt and I back tomorrow right here, Peacock and Williamson.